Good evening, everybody. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for being here tonight. I think one of the big things that seems to be a conversation that's coming up just through the discussions with everyone here is there seems to be like a big appetite these days for in-person events, and I just don't want to ever make it feel that we take it lightly, that showing up here tonight means the world, not only to like all of us here, but to the fact that this is such an amazing creative community. There's so many talented people in this room, and I think back to the days of getting the chance to like meet with other creatives, like even just Jesse in that kind of situation, and that turns into a friendship, that turns into collaboration, that turns into us traveling around the world together and things like that. So I would just say, like, don't take it lightly about the opportunities that can exist in the collisions that happen in these rooms tonight. So first off and first and foremost, thank you all for being here, but also I'll pass it over to you guys, our special guests of the evening. The discussion that we're having today is all about the creative roadmap to go from this dream of full-time creativity and what that looks like going from A to B and that bridge in between. So can you please introduce yourselves?
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Julie Nolke. I'm an actor, writer, and content creator. I've been on YouTube for over 10 years now, and I'd say probably 7 of those years working full-time as a creator. So I quit my, we'll call it a Joe job, 3 years in. Yeah, and then I won't get into my creative roadmap just yet because I'm sure we'll chat more about it. But that's the story of how I got here today.
Yeah, my name is Jesse Driftwood. That's not my real name, but I go by Jesse Driftwood, and I typically just tell people I make internet videos. And same thing, I around 7 years ago now, I kind of shifted from more of a traditional filmmaking world into primarily making content, YouTube, Instagram, that kind of stuff, full time. Yeah, I guess we're gonna dive into that, right?
Yeah, so, Jesse, why don't you speak, and I want both of you to answer this question. It was like, what was that aha moment for you where you realized that you could do this full time?
Yeah, so I was already making videos full time, so I already had kind of a skill set a little bit like that, and I was making online content just for the fun of it. And Kijiji reached out to me. I don't even know if they're still a thing. It's like Facebook Marketplace from the 2010s. And they wanted to sponsor some Instagram stories, and it blew my mind because at that point, nobody saw value in this kind of world of vertical short-form content. And so the fact that a brand like Kijiji, no less, sought me out and wanted to do something, I was like, wait a minute. There are companies that will actually pay me to do the things I'm already doing, and that felt awesome. That felt very cool.
If I can just say also, Jesse's early video, like I was a follower of yours long before we ever met in person. His early videos like revolutionized what Instagram stories and reels could be because you were shooting vertical, you were doing insane transitions that like people had never even thought of before. Like I feel like Adobe adapted Premiere because of, really cool stuff that you were innovating.
Yeah, and I to build off of that too, just because I always think it's interesting, is like, I think you took advantage of a missed opportunity that a lot of people were overlooking. No one was taking Instagram stories that seriously at the time, and I think that was an opportunity for you to stand out, which maybe brought in opportunities like Kijiji emailing you to want to do projects.
Yeah, I remember there was 2 similar waves before that I had missed. A pretty obvious one is Vine. When Vine came out, right away I was like, I should make things here, and I never did. But I watched a lot of Vine, and I would just laugh all the time. I would find so much creativity in such a short span that when Instagram stories first started, I thought, like, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want this to be another situation where I look back and go, I had an idea for that. Why didn't I do it? Like all of you who thought I should buy Bitcoin in like 2004 and then didn't. Oops.
And your aha moment?
I was thinking about this. So I kind of have 3 of them. So I'm originally from Calgary. I moved to Toronto to be an actor. I went to York University, graduated with the hopes that I would become rich and famous immediately. That didn't happen because the acting industry, film and television industry traditionally is very, very difficult. There's a lot of gatekeepers deciding whether or not you are good enough, whether or not you're the flavor of the month. So I was hitting basically a stone wall trying to get into the industry that way. The other kind of prong of it is that I also wanted to be a writer, and at the time in film and television, you really had to choose, were you going to act or were you going to write, and you had to stay in your lane. So I turned to YouTube. I say that's my aha moment because I was still like very focused on my career path of being an artist. It was just a pivot to YouTube. And I knew that it was either going to be YouTube that was going to, you know, take me to the creative end goal, or it was going to be through YouTube to another avenue. But that was how I had to pivot. So that's one. The second is when I quit my Joe job, we'll call it that. I wasn't making content solely for myself at the time. I was also making original content for other YouTube channels, and we were kind of running like a production company. But making enough money to sustain my my house was like a really big, oh, this is working. Like, we're getting traction. And then, of course, like the final aha moment is like I had a video go viral, and you get that like flood of opportunities and money and views and all the glamour that comes with that. And so that's like another moment where I was like, okay, yeah, this is working. I'm headed in the right direction still, thank God.
I think one of the things that was going through my head a lot when I was trying to make my transition into full-time creativity is I always thought, I was like, oh, there's just gonna be like one source of revenue. It's either like an employer's gonna pay me, or I'm just gonna be getting like, you know, this one job. But I think what I'd like to remind everybody that's like here tonight and everyone that's listening is like, there's like multiple streams of revenue. What does like the business entities of Jesse Driftwood and Julie Nolke look like? What are the different things that you have your hands in that provide opportunities, that provide like a full-time living?
I always tell like creators that you have to have a diversified, like in the same way that you'd have a diversified investment portfolio, you need diversified income streams just to weather the storms of the volatility of being in favor with an audience or out of favor. I mean, this career is a marathon, not a sprint. And as somebody who has been viral, I can say it comes and goes. Like, the views come as quickly as they disappear, and you can't be in it for those reasons. But in order to have kind of a resilient and sustainable business, you need diversified income streams so that you can have that protective padding. So mine are AdSense, Patreon revenue, brand revenue, acting, speaking engagements, working collaboratively with other channels. There's a lot of irons in the fire at all times.
Yeah, I echo that entirely. I have a couple like online courses that have done reasonably well. You know, they spike well, but then they just provide a kind of like a low level, kind of an evergreen income that's just going in every month. It's kind of, I equate it to like AdSense, which is, you know, it spikes and lulls as videos do well, but then you have like videos that are evergreen is what we call them, right? And they kind of just pad that baseline of every month, you know, a few thousand views on that random review for the product you did 8 years ago. And those kind of things, just little things kind of add up over and over so that you're not just relying on that next big brand deal or that next big whatever thing you want to drop.
If you had to just say like what would be the number one source of revenue, like what the largest piece of the pie is?
For me, for sure, it's brand deals, yeah.
I would say same. I would say it's probably a third brand deals, a third like Patreon, YouTube memberships.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so let's create a scenario here. You both have to make a YouTube video. What is your creative process like from start to finish? I feel like you're already laughing because it's like they're both going to be like wild.
You have to make a video?
Yeah.
God.
Oh man, this is such an interesting question because I think my process is very different than a lot of people, and I struggle to recommend it to other people because I am really bad at visual imagination. I have this thing called aphantasia, so I don't like see visual ideas in my head. And so pre-production is like a nightmare for me. I really have to work with other people on pre-production, but I excel in the moment. I love production. I love the problem-solving aspects of it. So for me, what I find the most important thing is to get started in some aspect of the production. And because in this kind of social media world, there's not a strict pre-production, production, post-production timeline that you have to follow. So my videos all get made while I'm making the videos. I shoot, edit, shoot, edit, shoot, edit, and I build it like that because otherwise I'll get really stuck in my head overthinking what it's gonna be like when I realize a lot of what I like about my videos and a lot of what other people resonate in my videos comes out of that kind of spontaneity and the problem solving in the moment.
It's very documentary filmmaking.
Yeah,
what you do.
absolutely. I did a lot of weddings for like 10 years. And so weddings teach you a lot on how to work in that kind of in the moment, think quick, documentary style, find it in the edit.
And before you answer, Julie, I just want to kind of dive into one aspect of it. So you were mentioning that it's like hard for you to visually figure out what the idea looks like. If you're working with a brand or you're working with a client, like how do you pitch an idea so that you get that funding?
Yeah, absolutely. To be fully frank, a lot of brands I work with, I thankfully have built a rapport with so that they trust that we will build the idea in time. And a lot of companies that are like, we need you to pitch the full concept beforehand, I just go, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm the right fit for you. Because a lot of the times if I say like, this is what I'm going to do, and I try and give it my all in the pre-production, I end up making a worse product because I feel constrained to the thing I said it was going to be, rather than building the thing they actually expect of me, which is this other style of video that doesn't necessarily come about from a very strict pre-production process. However, I do try and have at least some type of loose concept in mind, and sometimes that's just for a shot idea. And so if I can start with one, like, I have this idea of a camera moving in this specific arc, something like that, and I can imagine, like, your product is like this, and I might film a proof of concept just to see how it goes. But yeah, a lot of it is you have to trust that we're going to build it along the way, and it's going to be cool.
Your portfolio is strong enough that it's like it will be something like this.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyways.
So to move it over there, what's your creative process like?
Well, so I make sketch comedy videos on YouTube, so it's a little bit different. I don't have, you're the second filmmaker that I've met who has that, what did you call it?
Aphantasia.
Aphantasia. And she's a director too. It's so funny. I wonder if there's
I would like to talk to her.
But I wonder if there's an aspect of like people like that being drawn to filmmaking because that's how they can like see what they dream up. Anyway, I'm very much like a visual person, and because it's my husband and I shooting these videos, I'm writing for myself to act in my own videos, and so I'm imagining exactly what the blocking is, what the frames are as I'm writing it. I'm even imagining the performances because I'm often acting alongside myself, just even how I'm going to deliver the lines so that the dialogue comes across naturally, all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into the pre-production, but of course we've done it for 10 years now that it's pretty seamless. Like I don't really think too much about it. And then just as for like where ideas come from, it's comedy, so it's literally everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's something funny to pull from.
Can I have you dive a little bit more into the comedy aspect for a second? Because I feel like when you're in a little bit of a bubble and you're testing out ideas, sometimes you can think, like when I was making videos when I was younger, maybe they were just not funny, but like we thought they were the funniest things,
Yeah.
and other people didn't find them that funny. But I've watched so much of your content, like everything is so funny. How do you test your ideas to kind of like know that you're like, I have something here?
I mean, I don't know that I've done that at all. I appreciate you saying that they're funny, but honestly, similar to the way that you work, and honestly, Chris, the way you work, I just have my one authentic voice. I just have what I can do and my sense of humor. And so I'm lucky in a way that the skill that I have or the voice that I have has resonated with people. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to mold my content any type of way to be more relatable. I'm just really trying to make stuff that I find funny, that my friends find funny, or stuff that I think in the moment is important, that I want to share, that I think an audience might resonate with.
And so I want to just like, you said something there, like it's like a distinct voice. You're like, this is like my thing. And I would say that both of you have really found that. And I would say that a lot of people, myself included, really struggle with finding their voice. They'll take little bits of like everything that they've seen and be like, okay, this is part of my identity. Right. Was building your voice something that like just naturally happened for you, or were you really like conscious of like how you started to become the voices that you are?
A little bit of both. I would say it is a slow development of like kind of finding your style, and I don't know that it ever stops. I think your style does slowly evolve, but part of it is just, especially if you're not chasing trends necessary and trying to do what other people are doing. A lot of it is just trying to be true to like, what do I like? what feels good to me in this? Because if I don't like it, I don't care if other people do. Because if I don't, then I'm like, why? I could just go work at Starbucks because I'm not going to like that, but people are going to like the drinks. So I want to make sure that when I'm making things, all of the decisions are, do I like this? Is this something I would watch? And I think this to like an unhealthy extent, I rewatch my videos constantly. I watch them over and over and over again, and I like to analyze, where do I get bored? Where does it maybe not connect? And I also do it honestly as like an encouragement. At the end of every year, I rewatch every video I made.
Whoa.
I'll get together with like people that helped me make them. We watch every single one. Sometimes we'll have non-alcoholic beverages, and we watch them. And I find it really encouraging to be like, oh, I forgot about that. That was such a funny idea, and reminisce on where the concepts came from, or how little ideas evolved over time. And I find doing that process is really helpful for me to even become aware of my own style. Because a lot of it is spontaneous and it's figuring it out in the moment, it's easy to forget that I did it because it was just like, haha, funny idea. But when you watch it consistently over time, it's easier to be like, oh yeah, I see this string through all of my own videos, and I understand a little better now what other people might resonate with.
Do you find it also points out your crutches? Like things that you, like maybe weaknesses that you have, or things that you've relied on like a little too hard?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And especially on YouTube, we niche down. And so to an extent, we're always kind of leaning on crutches, that even if that crutch is just, I know my audience likes this topic or something like that. And that can be a little bit of maybe a bit of a bummer. But it also just teaches me what I want to do different. And so I don't find it like bums me out.
Okay, yeah. I think finding your own unique creative voice, I agree. I think it's ever changing. I think it's going to evolve as you're in different eras of your life. I think the key thing to remember is if you're in any creative field, you also have to be a citizen of the world. Like, I do think a lot of the creative voice work has to happen off the platform. It has to be in your day-to-day. It can be like watching films, seeing paintings. It can be where you take inspiration from and what you like. But ultimately, I think it's like work done internally as opposed to watching YouTube videos and trying to replicate what you see. I do think there's value in pulling inspiration, and I do that all the time with watching other comedy creators. But particularly in comedy, you can get into this dangerous trap of I'm making other people's jokes, I'm taking other people's styles. I thought that was funny, I'm gonna build on it, make it my own joke. Like, that gets into really, really dangerous territory. And so I just find it better to build my voice off the platform. When I come up with ideas, I'm nowhere near watching videos online. I'm at a bus stop, I'm at a restaurant, I'm in places where I'm experiencing the world a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is so important, especially now in this world of short form reels, TikTok being kind of a lot of people's avenues to get into it. It's really easy to just hyper-focus and watch the kind of content you want to make. And personally, I find that really unhelpful. I find I'm more likely to be down on my own videos while watching other people's videos in my field than I am watching my own videos. And so I like to take more inspiration from just other aspects of filmmaking or other aspects of YouTube or other genres of YouTube than I am in my own field. I tell most of my friends that, even like you and whoever, it's like, I don't watch most of my friends' videos. I watch the ones that are important to them, that I know they work really hard on. But I just want to be careful that I'm not only absorbing my own circle of influence, like my own little bubble of content, because I want to pull from a more diverse and more unique skill set and more unique content pool.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about like time off platform. I think a lot of work is kind of done in that space. And I think fear is such a big part of wanting to make that jump all the time to being like, how do I do this full time? For you guys, if you felt like you were open to it, like what were the demons or the hurdles that were in front of you that you kind of needed to like get past or go over in order to like quote unquote make it?
So So many. So there's so many at the beginning. It's so hard to start a YouTube channel or to start being a creator. It takes so much bravery. So anybody that's got a video online at all, like, congratulations, because you're well above so many people that want to do that. For me, like, the biggest hurdle was how do we make this streamlined and consistent so I don't hate it? Because when you're working a full-time job and making videos at night or on weekends and you are dead exhausted, you have to find a way to make that process fun but also super efficient. The barrier of entry has to be low, otherwise you're not going to do it. And everybody here knows, I'm sure, the algorithm wants consistency. So when you start building out your videos, you've just got to be able to sustain them. And finding little ways to do that to make your process a little bit more efficient it really helped me out.
I watched a TikTok once, or maybe it was a reel, who knows, of a girl saying, like, I wish, you know how there's a close friends list on Instagram? I wish there was the opposite, like, only people I don't know, because I am so much more self-conscious about my videos at family reunions than literally anywhere else in the world. Like, I don't know what it is. It's harder to feel like I'm being true to myself when I think about the fact that Aunt Susan, that's not a real aunt of mine, don't look her up, is watching
That's her
them
full name.
than 20,000 strangers across the world. That doesn't bother me at all. But I find learning how to be like, I know that family, I know that friends, I know that people who don't like me are going to see this. And learning to get over that part, I find, for at least personally, that was the hardest part about becoming comfortable putting myself on camera on the internet.
What does that look like to become comfortable with that?
I'll let you know when I get there. Yeah, in truth, I don't like being on camera in public. I don't even like being on camera when my friends are helping me film. I like being on camera, never. But I much rather be on camera when I'm filming by myself. It's just the awareness of other people watching, the awareness that maybe they have an idea that I could word something better, and maybe they're right and I don't want to admit it. All of that I find much more difficult. So part of being an online creator that's actually maybe a benefit in this regard is that you do get to do a lot of stuff by yourself. You don't get to, you have to. Especially when you're starting, like, you're shooting, you're editing, you're scripting, you're doing all of it by yourself. But then once you kind of start branching out, that's when it stresses me out.
I want to talk about just the aspect of friends and family, because I think it plays such a massive role in wanting to make that jump. You know, I felt fortunate enough that when I was, like, wanting to go to school, my dad had this moment where he kind of said to me, he's like, we were at like just TMU down the street, and we
You're
like
probably wake surfing, don't lie.
we were doing a tour, and he had just seen, like, all the audio studios, and he had told me, he's like, I don't like my job, and I want you to like your job. And it was like
That's
a
so
really
cool.
powerful moment. Did you have, and feel free to, like, you know, answer or not answer, but did you have the support from friends and family to go after it? And if you didn't, how did you manage to, you know, have the confidence in yourself to keep going?
I found out years later that my parents were terrified. Like, in the moment, I was so lucky that they were so supportive. They were supportive of me going to acting school. They're supportive of me. I mean, I paid my way, but I worked in restaurants, and I worked lots of different places whilst I was pursuing YouTube. And it wasn't until, like, I had been successfully on YouTube for like 6 years that my mom was like, yeah, we were worried about you. But I was lucky.
Yeah, I think I was both fortunate and maybe unfortunate. Like, my dad is perpetually offline. He has no idea how I do what I do. He'll come to the studio and be like, this place doesn't make sense to me. How are you guys in this warehouse? What are you doing? But I've actually found out more recently that sometimes when he gets together with his golf buddies, they watch my videos and think they're cool. And he told me that recently, and I damn near cried. Darn near cried. I had an older sister growing up. I still do. And she's very academic. She's brilliant. You know, she, in her summers in college, would teach Spanish to Spanish kids in Spain. Like, she was always such a genius, and I sucked everything at school. I don't like saying it that way. I was really bad at school. I was not a good student, let's say. Always been very curious. I love learning. But if you tell me to do something, I'm like, no, I'm not going to. So my parents kind of came to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to do things that were expected of me, and I was more likely to be a happy citizen of the world if I was doing the things that I actually wanted to do. And when I first wanted to get into video, they actually, we scheduled a meeting at a Starbucks with these 2 other wedding videographers. I have no idea how we got introduced to them. And my parents wanted to sit down and be like, so you can actually make money doing this? They wanted to give me like a seal of approval. And at the end of it, they're like, okay, if this is what you want to do, well, let's go for it. Yeah.
So to kind of like shift the family dynamic into, you guys are parents.
Not together, but absolutely. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
In the future, let's say your kids decide that they want to pursue a life of YouTube or on social media. What are your thoughts if they come to you with this?
Doctor, lawyer, no exceptions. No, I think a lot of it depends on the age. Both of my kids, they watch some amount of YouTube and they understand what it means to be a YouTuber. They find it very interesting, and their friends at school don't believe them that their dad is a YouTuber, which I think is cute. But I think my answer to that would vary based on age and even based on era of internet that we're in. Because I know, let's say child stars don't always have the greatest childhood. Yeah. And part of being a parent isn't just giving your kids what they want all the time. So trying to walk this balance between encouraging their creative pursuits and not just being like, let's do it. I don't want to be, personally, this isn't my goal, to be like a family YouTuber, because I don't like just putting my whole life online necessarily, especially since having kids. But a fun compromise has been like, well, we can make videos and like send them to your cousins. And then they still have the creative outlet, they still have the experience of, we're making a video together, but it doesn't have to be tied to the metrics of success at such a young age, because that's my main fear. My main fear isn't public recognition. My main fear is tying their own worth to how many people are looking at me, how many people like me, what do the comments say?
Yeah, totally echo, absolutely ditto. It has to do with age. It's so contextual. If he came to me and was like, I want to be an artist, absolutely, absolutely. The internet is a touch scary, especially as a parent, and there's so much info on how toxic and dangerous it is for young minds. So as a parent, kind of monitoring like what's best for them, like how do we harness your creative voice in a way that is safe for you. I also am like a really big proponent, like I just did a talk last week with a lot of really young starting out YouTubers, and like one of the things I was really trying to communicate to them, because they want to make stuff so bad, and I was like, yes, and please do, but just why are you making it? Like have the seed of that reason be for yourself and not for the celebrity or the notoriety or the views. And yes, I will believe in you 100%. But the minute you start doing it for all that fame, you start like playing a dangerous game with your self-worth, and ultimately you're going to burn out. It's not going to be a fulfilling, satisfying career, and it can be really dangerous for young people.
So we're talking a lot about the creative roadmap, and a lot of time people will have this vision. Like if I went back to like what I thought I would be doing, I thought I would be like a rock star. Like my career started in music, and it very much shifted into a completely different world, which I'm wildly grateful for. Does your vision for your career line up with like what you're doing now?
No, because I think when I first was like, I think I'm going to be an artist, like a YouTube career wasn't really a thing. And that ties into, I don't even know what the next 10 years are going to look like. I think the adaptability of creators is something that we've developed and we're really, really good at. But no, it's funny, maybe even 7 years ago, if somebody asked me that, I would have been like, okay, I still want to be in film and TV. Like, I'm going to be a film and TV actor because that's like the top of this industry. And I don't even think that's true anymore. Like, I know plenty of YouTube creators who originally wanted to be actors or producers or whatever, and now it's just like, no, the eyeballs are on the internet. Why would I move over? So no, the landscape has definitely changed for me.
Yeah, I have a very hard time imagining the future at all. But I just strongly expect it's going to be very different 5 years from now than it is 10 years from now, than it is 15 years from now. And so my main focus is building up a skill set that seems like it will have value for the foreseeable future, which is, I mean, video for me anyways, and trying to maintain my love of making videos, because most people that I know, at least once a year, once every couple years, do start to struggle with burnout, this feeling of I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Metrics aside, it's exhausting to just do the same thing. And so I like to just find ways to enjoy the process as often as possible while I'm making. Because the more often I spend creating in like stress and anxiety and like burnout, deadline, like that kind of feeling, the less I like it. And the more often I make fun things with my friends and goof off as if we were making our first skateboard video as, 12-year-olds, the more I love it. And so trying to hold on to that childhood joy of creating things as long as I can in my life, to me, as long as I'm doing that, I feel like, yeah, I kind of did what I set out to do.
So you touched on like skill set. Let's imagine a world where your influence and your, like, let's call it like the audience disappears. What are the skill sets within this field that both of you can still make a living at?
Shooting video, editing video, I've imagined I could probably, if I needed to, become a presenter of a different YouTube channel, something like that, or work in consulting. You learn so many, it's almost incredible how many skills you have to learn in this field.
We're very talented.
Maybe.
Everyone in this room is very talented.
Yeah, it's a lot of skills that you do pick up that I don't think are necessarily tied to your own audience. Maybe in a very, how much money I'm making right now versus later if they were to go away, sure, but the skill set remains. If you learn how to create compelling, interesting videos now, that skill set is going to be the same whether or not AI is making videos or whether or not audience are interested in some newer diagonal aspect ratio, who knows? But the skill set of pacing your videos and understanding when people get bored and when they want to keep watching, I don't see that going away anytime soon.
But I do think that ties into, like, you also need to constantly be learning, like constantly have that beginner's mind of, oh, there's a new platform, I'm not scared of it, or there's a new video style, like how can I play in that playground and not be kind of crotchety and stuck in my ways. I think as a creator, you just always have to be ready to pivot. But yeah, we build incredible skills. Like my husband and I always have this thing we tell each other, which is like, it's fine, we know how to make money. Because, it started because we turned down this like quite large contract we were making original content for another channel, and it was like soul destroying work. And it was fine, it like had paid our bills for a while, but they came with a renewal contract, and I was like, I can't do it again. And it's artistically an absolute disaster for me and him too. And I was like, well, we know how to make money. So even we're gonna say no to this, and we'll just take a beat. And if we have to film weddings, if I have to be a host, I don't say that like those are like lower jobs. They're just different jobs. And we have, both my husband and I, we have skills that we've built on YouTube that are now transferable everywhere in every industry.
I feel like I might already have the answer to the next question that I have, but I'd like to add a little like part to it. It's like, how motivated are you both by money, and how much does money dictate the creative in what you're doing?
What's that pyramid called? Do you guys?
Pyramid scheme.
Oh, yeah, those.
Giza.
No, do you know what I'm talking about?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's how motivated I am by money. So it was like, I got to get a roof over my head. I got to get food on the table. so like my artistic drive was a lot more, it definitely had a lot more stress and pressure on it early on. But that's, again, not to like beat a dead horse. That's why I say like diversify your income, because you start creating this like stability. Even if your Patreon monthly payout is like $100, you're building stability in your business so that you can meet that basic level of needs, and then you just get to be a creative. And then, I mean, then you're flying. Like at this point, it's like if I can pay my mortgage and put food on the table, I can take all the creative risk I want, which is the dream, I think, as a creative.
I think, yeah, deferring to Maslow's hierarchy of needs and not
Pyramid
an
scheme.
MLM is a great way to think about it. I wish I was more motivated by money, if I'm honest. I don't know how to conceptualize it. A lot of this talk is just me being like, my brain doesn't work. I wish I was more motivated by it, because then I wouldn't spend a month on a single video just to get it to a point where I felt like I liked it. Because, you know, everyone's always heard, what is it? Perfect is better than done? No, that's wrong. Done is better than perfect, whatever. But a lot of it for me is kind of like striding that line between, I just need to like it. If I don't like it, I don't care. And that is really what drives me far more than the income behind it. And unfortunately, that's not always such a good thing. Sometimes you do need to pay attention. And so making sure, you know, you're getting your basic needs met is so important. You don't start taking out giant loans for things you don't need. Don't start buying way more gear than you need. Focus really on the creative aspect of it at the budget you're currently at before you start trying to like throw yourself in over your head. And I still like just DIY filmmaking, just making it work with what I've got.
Well, and the reality is, I don't know how long either of you were making videos before it started being profitable, but like for me, it was years.
Yeah.
Like years. And so whatever video format you're making now, if you can imagine, can I sustain this for another 3 years without it being profitable? I think that's got to be like kind of a serious down-to-earth conversation you have with yourself.
I'd love for you to like just dive a little bit more into that. Like you were really stressing years. And to be honest, I remember like I was such a fan of your content, and for so long I was like, I feel like your success isn't lining up with your like how talented
That's
you
very
are.
sweet of you.
I
And-
fully agree there.
And at what point were you able to just keep saying like keep going, and like, because for a lot of people they might just be like, well, this is a sign, like should I just be listening to like what the world is like, this is not working.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it does. Like how did you know, or how did you keep telling yourself like I wanted this?
Like honest, I hate saying it, but just like blind ego, like so much because I literally can't do anything else. Like I would have these like conversations with myself, being like, Julie, nobody wants you, like and don't feel bad for me. But like the acting industry didn't want me, and like I was really like grinding it out weekly on YouTube. But I genuinely can't do anything else, and nothing else makes me happy. So it was a serious conversation internally of just, do I just want to make videos in a vacuum? If nobody watches them, is that enough? And ultimately I decided, yes, it's enough. It's enough for me, and yes, I'll go back to my side job. I'll manage at the bar. I've got no issue doing that. And I'll just make videos that nobody watches, and that's totally fine. But the beauty of YouTube, again, is that if you are consistent, and this is not just like my own anecdotal experience, this is like there's stats behind it. If you are consistent on a platform, you will see growth. It will, because it does happen, because discoverability happens in a way, you get better. It's that like Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Like the channel's gonna grow. I don't know how long it's gonna take. I don't know when it will be profitable for you, but that is the trajectory. That's what YouTube wants. YouTube is your cheerleader, and they are your champion. It's just a matter of time, how many drops in the bucket before it tips over.
I'd like to end on this question before we open it up to the audience to ask questions. So this gives everybody kind of a chance to think about what they might want to ask here. But how would you both define success?
I love this question. I think this is the most important question that everyone needs to look inward for before they try to figure out how big they want to be is what is success to you? Because I've known a lot of people, and I've been there myself, where I feel like, oh, I reached the thing I thought was the top of what I wanted, and now I don't know what to do. And I think for a lot of people, if you can get stuck in this trap of like, success means upward growth all the time. And I just don't think that's true. So very early on, my wife and I had to figure out what success looked like for us. And the biggest metrics is our family life. Like, are we paying our bills? Are we getting to spend a lot of time with our kids? Am I there for dinners and bedtimes? Am I not away all the time because I feel like we need a second Hummer or something? We don't even have one Hummer, just so you know. But maybe. And constantly coming back to this idea that success for us is a good, just a good, relatively comfortable, happy life. And relatively comfortable doesn't even always mean we've got 6 months income planned out or something like that. Relatively comfortable is like we're eating and and we're together and we live in a house that we love, it's quite a simple life is all I've really wanted, and I try not to push myself beyond what is needed for that, because then that's when I get into stress creating, anxiety creating, and losing interest in the thing that I loved.
Do you think you have your definition of success?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My kids and my wife are my favorite people in the whole wide world, bar none. Like, you guys are all, I'll get sick of you in a minute. But I could spend so much time with them all the time, forever. So yeah, I'm like the luckiest guy in the world.
Oh,
I love that.
that's really cute.
Julie, what does success look like?
I mean, yeah, I was going to have the exact same. I do think there's a distinction, though, because while success for me is I say boring business because I don't like volatility whatsoever. I like when the business just chugs along and gradually grows and income comes in and I can pay all the bills. I think that success is being able to create freely. So dreaming up ideas and going, yeah, you know what? We're going to make that short film. Or, yeah, I'm going to write that feature and let's get that sold. Or, having the creative space, not feeling bogged down by like, oh, I got to pay everybody's salaries and then I got to pay my mortgage and it's overwhelming. So I think that as a creative is the ultimate success. Whether you're going home to a $6 million house or a $200,000 house, to be able to create freely and like bring your ideas to life, I think is successful. That doesn't mean that like my drive is mitigated. That doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, this is good enough and I'm not going to pursue bigger things, because I'm still incredibly driven and just like hustling and going, and I want to make bigger things. I want to make things that reach more people. I want to make things long form, short form, feature films. I want to do it all. But I do already feel like if it stopped tomorrow, and I just got to stay at this status quo, let's say, it would totally be enough.
I think this is a moment where we should all just give us applause here, because wildly inspiring, amazing. A big thank you to both of you so much for being here. We do want to, give everybody the opportunity to do a Q&A. Does anyone from the audience have a question that they'd like to ask Jesse or Julie?
It's kind of a two-parter question here. Along your journey, when you started to get the attention of brands that wanted to get involved, what was it about your content that made them want to get involved? And then the other part of the question is, how have you been able to continue working with brands without compromising on like your own interests and the things that excite you about what you create?
Ooh, that is a two-part question. What was the first part again?
What was it about your content that made brands want to get involved in the first place?
I mean, to be brutally honest, most brands, what they want is eyeballs. And that's an unfortunate aspect. That means I get dog food brands reaching out to me, or random video games that are successful in the Philippines. Will you make a video about this? Because they just want eyeballs. And so I find it's actually more important to curate the type of brands that I actually want to work with, because again, coming back to making videos that I want to make, it's pretty obvious right away when a brand values your creative more than they value just your audience. And so when you kind of get that feeling that they actually appreciate the things that you do, it's the first green flag right away where I think, okay, we could have a relationship here.
Like when they actually connect with you on a personal level.
Yeah, sometimes it's stylistically or personality-wise or something like that. And often it'll come out in email, I loved when you made this video, there was this part, we were thinking like, there's an opportunity for something similar with us. I find that really helpful to know what it is that they like, because a lot of the time it's generic emails that just come in, MailChimp is dropping your name, we love you, YouTube, like misspelling things. And most of those emails, for me, they just go straight in the trash, because it's just not what I'm interested in.
If I could just add another opinion to this as well, is that yes, they care about eyeballs, but they also care about the relationship that the creator has with their audience. And so there's this really great theory called like the 3,000 fan theory, which is basically like, I've known case studies of people who get millions of views, but they can't convert sales for like a company. And there's also people who have like 3,000 fans and can sell like $100,000 worth of product. And that really has to do with the relationship that the creator has and both their trust as well as like how connected they are. So just as like an ulterior, like yes, views matter, but also you can have business metrics that matter for brands. And sometimes also brands don't care if you make a sale at all, because maybe they just like Jesse and they want to be associated with his brand image, and that's a great enough alignment for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All of that, absolutely, yeah. The second part again was?
Yeah, it was like, how have you been able to not compromise on your own interests and what excites you about?
Yeah, a lot of that comes from curating the type of work that I take on, because some of the brands, for example, if they say, before we even discuss it, like pitch us your concept, for me, I'll usually just go, I don't think this is gonna be a good fit, because that's just not how my workflow goes typically. I can point you in the direction of other creators that I know that are super talented that could help you out with this. But it just might not be me, and that's okay.
Any other questions? Can you pass the mic there?
I was just wondering what would you consider to be essential, like whether it's just purely creative or when you're collaborating with a brand, what's essential for making good content? Like what do you consider good content to be?
I think good content is just content that pulls at people's emotions, whether that's laughter, joy, sadness, happiness, anything like that. Anytime you can connect with someone on an emotional level, I think is good content. And I don't think that's necessarily fancy cameras, fancy lighting. That can come from so many different ways. So as long as you're able to make some type of authentic connection with an audience, that's good content. That's the content I want to watch. I don't need fancy filmmakers all the time. I'm happy to watch someone just with their phone who doesn't know how to film or edit, but they can tell a good story.
Any other questions? We'll take one more.
All right. I was thinking about when you guys are creating either a title or a thumbnail, what is the worst to come up with? And maybe some advice on maybe making one or the other, whatever you find the worst to make.
I hate them both. I hate them so much. It's one of the reasons why I'm like in love with making TikTok and IG content right now, because there's no title or thumbnail. I'm really like a contrarian when it comes to thumbnail, because I don't love the like shock and awe thumbnails. I actually think that look is like getting a touch passe, where the audience is going, oh, that's not what I'm getting in the video. That's just like you with like a face. I mean, it was totally on trend, but I worry that it's not anymore. I think audience members just want something truthful that's in the video. So yes, it's got to be something that draws your attention. Yes, generally, if you're the personality of the YouTube channel, it's got to be your face. It's got to be clear. It's got to be bright. I mean, lighter thumbnails do better than darker thumbnails. This is all from my like YouTube manager. Lighter thumbnails do better than darker thumbnails. But it's gonna come down to I don't know, your content. It's so contextual. I struggle with it in comedy because it's like the title. I don't want to give out the joke, you know. But it's like what's in the video, and so anyway, that's my own crap.
Yeah, I hate thumbnails and titles. I will say, however, some of the, let's say, best performing videos I've ever had were ones where I came up with either the title or thumbnail first. I'll come up with like an interesting idea for like a very clickable title and then creating from that. But again, because I don't like visualizing the concept first, I need a starting place to build off of. Sometimes that starting place can be a title, but if I leave it to the last minute, you best believe it's a screenshot from the video, and that is not good advice.
That's our talk this evening. I have one favor to ask. We're gonna get Kyle up here just to take like a big group photo with everybody. But in the meantime, we still have another like hour or less here. Matthew is in the back. He's shooting portraits. So if you want to get your portrait taken, please go say hello to him. And we still have coffee and we have tea. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank Henry's for supporting these community events. We have 2 more going on in the next couple of months. So just like keep an eye out on our socials there. And please, one last time for Julie and Jesse and all of their insight today.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for organizing.
Yeah, this has been super fun.
And I think, Kyle, maybe if you can like come over here and we'll do it this way, and maybe we can pop this light over.
you.